Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Career Therapy Live. We've got a special guest for you. Build with June is here, and we'll be getting started in just a minute. So grab your brown liquid drugs, and let's get ready for another morning of Career Therapy Live.
I'm too old for this. Been around this, broken down for way too long. Left my home for this. Story-eyed, it's no surprise. Things went wrong. What was I thinking, babe? All the mistakes I made.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Career Therapy Live with Martin McGovern. Every weekday at 8 a.m. CST. We'll be having Build with June join us this morning for a bit of a... Oh, here she is. June, I'm going to give you a second to get ready, and then I'll pull you in. While we're waiting, I'm going to read a little Daily Stoic, and then we'll jump into our conversation today. We'll be talking LinkedIn stories, live streaming, coaching, and probably a bunch of other stuff about what our clients are going through. So I'm excited about it. Okay, so today's reading is, we must undergo a hard winter training and not rush into things for which we haven't prepared. Epictetus Discourses. Before the advent of modern warfare, armies typically disbanded during the winter. War was not the total war as we understand it today, but more like a series of raids, punctuated by the rare decisive battle. When Epictetus says we ought to go through hard winter training, the Greek word for some very complicated word that I will not pronounce, he was disputing the notion that there is such a thing as part-time soldiering, or part-time anything for that matter. In order to achieve victory, one must dedicate every second and every resource into preparation and training. LeBron James doesn't take a summer break. He uses it to work on other aspects of his game. The U.S. military trains its soldiers day and night, even when they're not at war, in preparation for when they have to go to war. When they do go to war, they fight until it's over. The same is true for us. We can't do this life thing half-heartedly. There is no time off. There aren't really even weekends. We are always preparing for what life might throw at us, and when it does, we're ready, and we don't stop until we've handled it. All right, I think that's a wonderful way to kick off the conversation with someone who is going hard at her business and really making things happen. June?
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm tired. But should we cheers?
Cheers, the brown liquid jugs. Ooh, I love the Mickey glass.
Yeah, this is how I feel right now. Oh boy.
I love it. So what's been happening on your side? Obviously, you went live for the first time yesterday, and I'm sure life is just crazy. I can't imagine what your inbox looks like after that.
Yeah, it's lit.
I love it.
I honestly, it was just. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm trying this new mic.
I've got a real echo going. I'm not sure if that's my end, your end.
Is that better?
Ooh, that's wonderful.
I took your feedback last week.
Nice. I love it.
So I'm using my portable mic here.
I did see that in the live stream. It looks so nice.
Yesterday was just a roller coaster of emotions.
So talk us through it. Well, I mean, I can imagine waking up was a bit of a stressful awakening. So talk us through your live stream experience.
It wasn't so stressful. I had this huge adrenaline rush, excitement, but then I was feeling my imposter.
Ooh.
Lindsay, she was in my head again.
Oh, Lindsay.
Oh, Lindsay from Mean Girls. I was nauseous, honestly.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's like, and I think I told you this. So I used to be a big drama nerd in high school, and it took me back to last play I performed in was the Vagina Monologues by Ed Elsler, and that feeling of going on stage and performing,
Yeah.
that's how I felt. But it was weird though, because it wasn't I wasn't performing like physically. I was just going
Right.
online, but which is different because everyone's seeing you online. All of your coworkers, all of your peers. So it was a different experience. So that I think that's why I felt really nauseous.
Yeah, well, this is oddly physical live streaming. Like the physical experience of it, at least. Like every single time I get off these live streams in the morning, I'm just like sweating. Like I'm just like,
I can't
you
even
know,
tell though.
yeah, I know it's been what 10 months, and I'm still like, whew, like at the end of them. Um, and so yeah, I think that's like the physical experience. Like I remember doing plays back in high school and drama and things like that. It was so fun, and even improv more recently. Um,
Cool.
like the first time I did improv, the amount of adrenaline that went through my system, like I've never done that. And like I remember being downstairs afterward, just literally physically shaking. And I tried to have a conversation with someone at like the ticket desk. And at some point they just stopped and said, "What are you saying?" And I was like, "I literally don't even know. My like brain isn't connecting sentences anymore. Like I'm so just overwhelmed with adrenaline." And I mean, honestly, it's probably what most people feel like when they go through interviews and stuff like that too. It's very it's almost like we're training for that kind of stuff on a weekly or daily basis.
Yeah. And speaking of training, like you just did that reading about how like LeBron James or the military, they never take breaks. They're continuously training. And that's my kind of motto. There's like no days off.
Mm-hmm.
The song that I posted yesterday for my friend who I've met on BART on my commute ride to work, he wrote this song called No Days Off
I
that
love that.
he was inspired by writing those lyrics by all of the Bay Area commuters riding the train, going to work on their hustle to make that money. And that's how my mentality has been since my layoff. I've just been, even though I wasn't working, I was still doing all the things I enjoy. But just by experimenting, and now it's kind of led me on this path organically.
Yeah. And I love the concept of like, I mean, obviously there's balance to be found, right? We don't want to encourage people to burn out
No.
every single week, even though I sometimes do. um, but like when LeBron is, going all summer and like he's not going to a point where he's going to be so exhausted he can't play the games, right? And like I think when people think on or off, it's this all or nothing mentality where I'm going, so hard that I'm going to break and I just do that until I literally die, in 10 years. Or I'm like completely checked out, half-assing it. And it's like, how can we live somewhere in the productive middle where it's like we're not killing ourselves every day, but we're cool doing something every day? Because I do think like with meditation or stoicism or, like what I've noticed with my morning schedule, I was like slowly inching my morning earlier and earlier every day. And now I'm like at 5:45. And then today, of course, for some reason, 4:45. I don't know why, but uh, and then on the weekends I would sleep in, and then on Monday I feel like I'm starting from scratch again, and
Mm.
like that. So now I'm just blasting through the weekends with the 5:45 schedule, so that I don't have to like crawl out of a pit every Monday, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what taking a break is. Like every time we take a break, we're just like almost eliminating the success that we've built over the last week by making it harder to get back into that groove when we want to do it again. It's sort of like, people who stop networking after they get a job.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then 5 years go by and they're like, okay, now I lost my job and
Yeah.
I only know my coworkers. It's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe we should have kept that habit up, at least like at a lower level or something. What are your thoughts?
No, honestly, like I think that's what I love about my experience as a recruiter, that like the moment I got like I'm always like I'm a lifelong connector. I connect with my people and I continuously to check on them with all of the candidates I've hired from previous companies. So I think it's important, even if you do get hired at a job, like especially from this experience of this pandemic and how millions of people are losing their jobs, they need to take a step back and realize, okay, I need to prepare myself if this happens again 5 years from now. What am I going to do? What actions do I need to take? So I'm more prepared, so I'm not feeling so alone. And for me, like when I got laid off, so many people were reaching out to me asking me, "Do you want me to refer you at these great big tech companies?" And that kind of speaks volumes of like how I network, how I actually establish those relationships. And I felt confident enough saying, no, I'm not ready right now. But I can go back to them and say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm actually back. I'm actually interested in going back to work. But just knowing that I've had that support system just speaks the volumes of like how I show up for my connections on LinkedIn and for people that I've worked with in the past.
So true. Yeah.
What do they
It,
say? Your network is your net worth.
yeah. That's I love that quote. One of the things that I think is so interesting and being a coach, we've probably, and you're in the recruiting field, like there's so many people and everyone's like, well, how do I keep in touch with everyone? Right. And I remember early on when I read some book or some article or something, and they're like, keep a spreadsheet of everyone. And every 2 weeks, send them a follow up and a little article and a little note and a little thing. So I started doing that. And I almost had a full on like conniption. I was like, there's so many people. And so I'm like, I don't have a CRM system. This is insane. And I think like when we say always on, when we say like your network is your net worth, I think what we're really saying is something a little bit more manageable than maybe that. It's like, how do you just consistently show up for folks and like be there? It might be 3 years since you've talked to someone, but like, is that door open or is it completely closed? And like that sort of mentality of like, it's again getting away from that all or nothing thinking of like I either talk to this person every day or they hate me, which I hear
Yeah,
from people all the time.
it's so true.
Juan
I think,
said, "Oh, I just want to call out." Juan says that he loves your Mickey Mouse cup.
thank you. I miss Disneyland. Are they open?
I think so. I think they did open
Like
up again.
yesterday, all I wanted to do was go to Disneyland right after.
What's your favorite ride? Or are you more shows?
No, I'm like the ride. I love the rides. I love like Space Mountain. Um, I can't even think right now. The Cars ride is great.
Is
It's
it? I
really
haven't been there
adventurous.
since that.
Really? Since
It's been
when?
a while. It's been a while. I because we used to go to Florida all the time. Because my parents had like a timeshare in Florida, and
Okay.
so yeah, so it was like the vacation. I have 4 brothers, so it's just like the thing that we could all do. And then yeah, I just remember going on the rock and roller coaster about 700 times in a day once. I think it's the best.
We actually went this year in January in California at Disneyland when they opened Star Wars Land.
Oh, that's gotta be fun.
I'm so glad we went because
Mm-hmm.
little did we know that was going to probably be one of the last times we would go for the next year or two, depending
Yeah.
on how everything's going. But actually, after the live, I had one last meeting, and then I took my kids to the zoo and just like disconnected off like social media.
Well, so let's talk about that because social media, I think, is one of those things where people might take the always on mentality and fry their brain. Um, I'm, I don't know what happened. Like, I was 2 weeks ago, like really gung ho about getting back on Instagram and everything, and then something happened like overnight, and I was like, I'm deleting everything from my phone. And and the only thing I have is LinkedIn. And then, funny enough, like right after I did this, the social dilemma documentary came out, and
Uh-huh.
so I watched that, and I was like, oh, okay, so I made a good choice there. And then immediately the next day, LinkedIn's like, we have stories now, and I was like, you know what? I literally just said I'm not going to go crazy on social media, and now it's like here's another thing you should do, another shiny object. But I posted a story this morning, And I will say I'm very proud of my new, very basic home screen. And this is my only screen.
Oh, wow.
It is literally just habit trackers, Spotify, LinkedIn, and Chrome. And like, what I'm so proud of is this. My screen time is like nothing.
Oh,
It's crazy.
is
Like
that an average?
Yeah, so it's like yesterday I spent 24, or today, or what is it? I don't know how to use this thing. On the week. I spent an hour on social media in the last week on my phone, which is like most people are what, 2 to 3 a day.
You don't
So
want
I'm
to
very
go
proud of
more.
that. But that's a very new development. We'll see if it sticks. But
Yeah, mine, you don't want to know mine.
know,
Just because, I mean, I'm always on LinkedIn. That's where but I'm like, I ate Instagram, Facebook. What's that?
yeah.
Like, but I'm trying to be better by disconnecting and
Well,
like
I do.
having like set hours or times.
Yeah. So, and I do think that it's like, it's nice that LinkedIn's doing it just for the sheer fact of like not having to manage so many platforms, you know? Like, like at least we can just focus on a single place for the business, right? You don't have to be on 10 different things in order to run a one person business or, a couple person business. And so, as you've been sort of, ramping up with everything, I can imagine your inbox and everything is just out of this world right now, right?
Yeah, I'm actually looking for like a CRM right now and like doing more email marketing. I think I told you that I did get an intern,
That's right.
but I don't even have time to like onboard her.
That's
I'm
the
just
rough part, right? Once you hire someone, you've got to manage them.
um yeah, this is just like some growing pains right now. It's good to be busy, but it's like it's hard to be like a solopreneur and you're doing all of your marketing, you're doing all of your video editing, you're doing all of your networking, you're doing your sales, you're talking to people, understanding what their challenges are with their job search, and then also now adding LinkedIn lives in my schedule. Am I crazy for doing that?
I'm constantly trying to figure out what not to do, because I think that's my problem as well, is I want to do it all.
Yeah,
I
we're the same.
think the helpful thing is that my partner will roll her eyes at me every time I come up with like 10 new ideas.
Me and you were like the same.
I'm like, here's the new business that I'm going to launch tomorrow, and she's like, how many URLs did you buy this week? And I'm like, shut up.
But you know what though? I rather have so many ideas like where I can't shut my brain off
Yeah.
than like someone that's like struggling to get creative and like
Hmm.
think of like the next big project. Where for me, it's like my mind is just like always on.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Did you get some sleep this weekend? I think you commented on my one of my posts about disconnecting.
Yeah, you were like, remember to take time off this weekend. And I was like, totally taking time off, not working right. No, I worked all weekend.
Yeah, me too.
Here's the thing. Like, one thing that your post did inspire me to do was take another look at my calendar. Cause I think right now I'm working with a bunch of schools and that's the bulk of my time. So I'm working with all their students. And, I'll commit 10 hours to this school, 15 to that school, 15 to that school. And I'll be like, that doesn't sound like a lot. And then when you actually lay it all out, you're like, oh, right. Okay. I've committed like, 40 straight hours of the week to these schools. And then I'm like, wait a second, but aren't I also putting like 10 to 15 to 20 hours to my business at some point? And so like, every Wednesday I post a new podcast. And last night I was like, oh, I have to post a new podcast tomorrow. And thankfully I like have them recorded and stuff. I just have them in the queue. So I had to go make the thumbnail and everything, but I did that at like, whatever time last night, later than I was supposed to. And I realized that I wasn't scheduling the business stuff in the work week. I was only scheduling my client work during the work week. And then I was like fitting in business stuff like while I was eating lunch. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's not sustainable. So
So
what your post did at least help me do over the weekend was say, okay, wait a second. how can I be more strategic with the work week so that the admin stuff and the personal business stuff isn't always on Saturday, isn't always on, like, or at least if I'm working Saturday, it's like I'm getting ahead of things, not catching up on things. And so that's where I'm trying to be less reactive and more proactive in the approach, so that I'm not just like, yeah, I'll do that on Saturday, that on Saturday, that on Saturday. Then Saturday rolls around. I'm like, oh, wait, I put like 5 to 10 things on this day that cannot all get done. So,
Yeah. I actually also too like I'm having more theme days where there's only days where I do discovery calls.
mm-hmm.
And then also too I scheduled in like family time. Like yesterday,
Nice.
I knew I was gonna do the live. I knew I had one networking call right after, but then I scheduled zoo time with my kids.
Nice.
And we did it. So I think it's really important to go into every new week by making sure you carve out that time for business development, all the administrative tasks, and then also the client work.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I'm trying to figure out too. But also to when like it's important to say no to things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a yes person and I'm a
I
people
know.
pleaser.
Terrible at it.
I'm happy that we have these conversations. Hopefully we could do this every Wednesday.
Yeah, I'd be down.
Because we could hold each other accountable, and then also to just like talk about like the challenges that we face as like career coaches and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that I'm thinking about the weekend, like it's so funny. It feels like a year ago already. But like on Saturday, so I did take some time. So I like what you're saying here because sometimes I just kind of gloss over and I forget to look at the details. So if I actually break down the weekend, what did I really do and where was the time spent? So on Friday, I had therapy. So I did take some mental health time. And then Saturday, I worked all day, but I did go on a date with my partner that night. And we went and saw New Mutants and got dinner. So check mark on the actual spend time, in your personal life. And then I will say one thing did happen. We ended up going to meet up with friends after the movie and stayed out way too late. And I really struggled with it. And I was like, oh no, I'm supposed to get up at 5:45 tomorrow. And this is going to really mess with that. And so, of course, the next morning I overslept, which is still like 6:30 on a Sunday. So I guess I'm going to give myself, that's better than what it was 6 months ago. So, but then I was a vegetable. I was a vegetable most of the day. So like I got a few things done, but it was like molasses the whole day because I didn't sleep well. And so I will say, yeah, that was one of the days that I had to be a little bit more forgiving with myself. Whereas in the past, I was definitely like, you said you were going to do these things today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but I also want, I said friends first, business second. And it did have an impact on Sunday, but I'm trying to be like, that's all right. There's always another day. Like this is not a race. This is like hopefully long-term lifetime stuff that we're doing here.
Right.
And so
what is it? It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
It's a marathon. Yeah. And like in my mind, I'm like, because I feel like there's this weird pressure to just, I don't know, go from like 0 to 100 overnight with your business. And I'm like, I've been doing this like a year and a half plus. I'm still figuring out quite a few things about like our target market and like, because I sort of built it in reaction to getting laid off, similar to you, right? And so it's like the first thing was get money in the door, and whatever I could do to get money in the door was
like you're investing in your business too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, get the right clients and money in the door. And that's like a totally different repositioning. And hopefully, long term, it's the right move, but short term, it might cause some waves. And I think that like realization of like, I'm trying to figure out what the sustainable course is for the business rather than just I think for the last few months, I've been focused on getting the revenue up rather than getting the right clients. And I think that there's like always a mismatch, like maybe a little push and pull between those two sides as a coach.
Yeah, right now I'm trying to do everything. But now I'm realizing that I really need to, I think I may actually lean on to a group coaching because I've been getting a lot of interest, but I don't know if I could coach all these people all at once. Do you have like a suggestion as far as like how many, it just kind of depends on my programs, right?
How many people or?
Yeah, like at a given month. Because I do have like an 8-week coaching program, and then I do one-offs like and I do customizable. We could probably do this after
I think it's
class.
fascinating. I think there's probably people out there wondering about coaching. So
Yeah. And I do like resume build. I'm not going to do resume writing anymore.
That's
Like I
usually
do.
the first one that we need to cut because it's it's a low price. People don't want to pay a lot to get their resume redone. And there's too many services that automate it. So it's hard
Andrea just
for.
commented. Do you think she's a fellow coach? I told her to log in. Oh, she started her coaching business was a result, and she just celebrated a year.
That's amazing. Congrats.
I'm gonna do resume building, like being more like
Mm-hmm.
consult what you need to do on your resume.
Yeah.
But before we end, I want to talk about LinkedIn stories.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts about it?
I'm so happy that I don't have to go focus on Instagram and LinkedIn. I like that I can put it all in one app because I have the career therapy. I had a career therapy Instagram that I was putting a bunch of like my little comic strips on, but then I separated out the comics into their own thing. And so now my Instagram is at 0 because I just basically relaunched it. And I was looking at it and I'm like, in order to actually build that, it's a very long road. And then I was like, maybe I'll do it on my personal Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, but that's just all my friends. I don't want to be like coaching in their face every day. So I was like, as soon as this launched, I was like, oh, stories is the one thing that I've been wanting to do, but I just don't want to go all in on Instagram. So this is, in my opinion, a really nice thing for me to have better conversations with people rather than, going to another platform and like splitting people's attention to do two different places. But I honestly have not been reaching for it as much as I thought I would. So we'll see if that changes. What about you?
I actually love it. I have been trying to repurpose the stories content on my IG stories. I love the whole like behind the scenes factor.
Mm-hmm.
Like yesterday, I did like a whole behind the scenes of like what I was doing to prep for this live.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm going to repurpose that content as an actual LinkedIn post because LinkedIn stories is not available to everyone globally.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it hasn't pushed because like I have connections in like London or in like Nigeria that don't have access to LinkedIn stories. What I find interesting is like seeing all of like my coach friends and all of the entrepreneurs that are in my network, like seeing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's like, oh my God, like you see more of like a personal, like more of like the personal side. And I don't know if you saw my story, but this weekend I did like a little backyard tour.
Oh, really? I love
Like,
the one where your kids crashed. That was my favorite one that you posted.
And I was like, I feel like it's like MTV Cribs, like
Yeah,
showing off my backyard.
that's awesome.
But I had to contain myself because like I was like super excited. But no, I love it. I actually like it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's also a great way for business owners to show the impact of your work and what you actually do.
I think that's huge.
You know?
I think it's huge. And I also, as you know, as I'm thinking about the social dilemma and stuff, I think it's massive to share your story and get yourself out there. I think right now what I'm seeing is it's like mostly coaches and business owners. And I'm excited to see what, job seekers end up doing with it. Cause I think it could be huge down the road of like even quicker ways. Because I'm like, go write an article, and people spend 2 months writing an article. I'm like, okay, don't write an article, just post a video. People go, well, I got to prep my whole house. Okay, wait, don't do that. Just make a story.
Honestly, I don't even care anymore. Like the whole preparation, like the videos that I've been doing have been like really quick now because it's like I don't even care if like I fumble on words or if like I misspelled my captions. I'm like,
totally,
done is better than perfect.
100%. And then the other thing I'll add is one thing I noticed as I started scrolling through other coaches' stories, because that's what's mostly up there right now, I started getting jealous. And I was like, oh, no.
You messaged me
Oh,
yesterday.
no. I'm like, now I got to go do that. And then I got to go do that. And so, like, going back to what we talked about earlier, it's like at some point we have to realize that, like, we should be using stories to support what we're already doing and maybe get some new ideas. But when they start crossing over, when viewing other people's stories starts crossing over into like creating more imposter syndrome and creating more like overwhelm and anxiety, I think that's when we have to start really looking at it. And I think it'll be interesting to see job seekers who are clicking on those things and seeing like, I got a job, I got a job, I got a job. And they just keep seeing that over and over again. It's just because people are only going to celebrate the things that they get, right? They're not going to celebrate not getting a job on their story. And so I'm curious to see, I already see like people getting overwhelmed by people posting about their jobs and how they got employed, and it kind of ruins their motivation for the job search. I'm curious if this will add in an additional layer that we have to mitigate. So I'm always trying to weigh the scales, but I mean, I think generally on the whole, it's incredibly positive. While also being like, uh-oh, where's that mental health part that might get in people's way?
Yeah. No, but I do see a lot of job seekers actually sharing their struggles as far as which I actually appreciate this like community because it's not all about the wins. It's not all about the new jobs that we get. It's about the journey and the struggles and that's why I'm always constantly sharing my struggle.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling right now as a new business owner.
I don't think there's ever a time that you stop struggling as a business owner. It's just different.
Life,
yeah, it's just different and newer and bigger struggles as you go.
Yeah, but I'm so excited that we've met. I'm so happy that we met because it's like you are like you've experienced this layoff, like you're doing this thriving business now, and it's like I see myself in your shoes like a year from now, hopefully.
And I'm inspired by what you're creating and the content you're putting out there. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And, you know, you've got kids, crashing your live stream. And I'm like, well, now I got to go get kids. And
we'll go get kids then.
I got to go make some kids.
I think my style is edutainment.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
And I'm going to embrace it because
That's
I'm
awesome.
super extra and dramatic. So,
I love it.
And I think my audience they like it. So I'm just going to go with it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what you continue to do. I'm excited to do more live streams with you and go have a nice fun day.
We should do a skit too.
Oh, I'll dust off my old improv skills and see if I can make it work.
I'll get my TikTok wigs ready for you.
What? TikTok wigs? Okay, we're gonna put a pin in that and come back around.
We should start a Google Doc with all of our ideas.
I'm so in. And one last. I'll read your comment afterward. Have a good one, June.
Bye. See you later.
Cheers.
See you next week. Cheers.
See you next week. All right. One last thing here. Juan says, Martin, I just want to say I really appreciate that you were doing this live stream podcast. Great resource for the job search. Also more than just the other. Oh, thanks so much, Juan. Really appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you're having a great mid to your week. And I will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8 a.m. Central Time for another Career Therapy Live. If you've got any questions or you need any help in the meantime, head over to careertherapy.com and take a look at what we're doing over there. We've got some really interesting stuff in the works. I'll chat with you all soon, and good luck in your journey.
I'm too old for this. Been around this, broken down for way too long. Left my home for this story. it's no surprise. Things went wrong. What was I thinking, babe? All the mistakes I made.